What would you say in terms of neurodivergent people specifically who interpret gender outside social norms related to sex? What? Neurodivergent people are can be guys or girls or NBs too. I'm not sure what you mean. I don't think anything that I've said applies differently to people who are neurodivergent. Hey Vaush, congratulations on banning next to no one and 2 huge Stunlocks. Yeah, I still owe you one for the last conversation, buddy. So what is your positive claim? I'm not sure what gender ideology you do support. My positive claim is that the idea that gender is nothing more than a self-ascribed identity is completely untenable. The best that we can do right now, I think, is not treat transphobia towards xenogenders the same way we treat transphobia towards, like, non-xenogender trans people. Or to put it a different way, okay? I'm going to draw a little chart and we're going to be done with it, okay? A very little chart and we're just going to be done with it afterwards. And that's the most you can do sometimes, you know? Sometimes a little chart is the closest that you can get to divinity. So, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's my prescriptive statement. So now finally, we're saying something you guys can get mad about. Here's our offense chart, okay? There's the line at the bottom. Now, here's how offended we get when a person is transphobic towards a trans-binary person. We get that offended. It's that bad, okay? And here's how offended we get when it's a trans non-binary person. Okay, I think those are the same height. I tried to make them the same height. Just pretend they're the same pixel. Okay, it's the same offended. Okay, now here's how offended we should get if a person is disrespectful towards a xenogender. If that. Now here's the thing. Okay, it is possible to be disrespectful towards a xenogender in a way which is not NB-phobic. You can affirm a person's non-binary identity and not hit this line, while also kind of not being super respectful towards the xenogender thing. Does that make sense? Please tell me that makes sense. So, for example, if a person identifies as a mogus gender, I can call them they, them, and agree that they're a trans person, and, you know, not call them a man or a woman, or whatever. But maybe I don't want to call them a Mo or Gus, you know? So in that case, I would be disrespectful towards their identity in this respect. But because I'm still respecting their non-binary identity by calling them they, them, not like referring to them by their sex or whatever, I don't think that I'm hitting this mark. I don't think that I don't think I'm being offensive to them on the category of them being non-binary. Does that make sense? Now, of course, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic with the height of this thing. If you're like a huge fucking cunt to some 14-year-old on Tumblr who's like a star gender or whatever, like, fuck off, guys, okay? Adding misery to the world doesn't improve any of these problems, okay? And you're not addressing the holes in our gender ideology by being mean to people online trying to figure out their identity. It's like, you're just not. Like, 0% you're not, okay? You'll never do an ounce of good and you'll do buckets of harm. So just don't even fucking waste your time, okay? However, the only thing that I am prescriptively saying here, the only thing I'm making a prescriptive argument for, is that I feel like we're opening ourselves up to a lot of problems if we make the argument that anyone being disrespectful towards xenogender stuff is up here. Because since the only bar you need to meet to be xenogender is to construct the identity and put it on a wiki in 30 seconds, anybody could do this for anything, and then with full legitimacy and ideological consistency, accuse you of doing the same harm to them for disrespecting it as they would do to trans people when they misgender them. And I do not want to have an argument with a transphobe who identifies as a gamer gender, saying that they get to misgender trans women because trans women don't refer to them as like a gamer or whatever. I don't want to have this argument. I don't want to do it. I don't want it, okay? If you want to affirm the legitimacy of xenogenders, which personally, by the way, I just think they're identities. We have non-gender identities. Like, we have identities already that aren't genders. You know what I mean? Like, it's possible to have that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the categorical difference is here, because if I go on, like, the gender wiki, oh, is there a gamer gender? Gamer gender is a gender connected to gaming / being a gamer. It can also be paired with media genders and have a favorite, the media gender most heavily connected to media gender. This can be used by any orientation and pronouns. You could be a he, him gamer gender, and by the logic which we have currently described, not referring to them as that would be like dead naming a trans woman. Does anyone else think that's a little bit odd? Is this an unironic page? It doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't know. This has to be a parody. Does it matter? Is there anything different between this and other xenogenders? Here's xenogender. Right here. Can you tell me what the difference is? How is this more valid than this? If you can't tell the difference between a sincere gender and a parody of a sincere gender, there might be an issue, don't you think? Do you think that might reveal a problem when Poe's law applies to gender identities? That might be a problem. Is that the argument you want to make against people, by the way? Challenging their sincerity? Like, that's the argument you're going to have against, like, gamer genders? Like, you're not being sincere? Is that it? Like, that's really arbitrary. You know what I mean? Sincerity is not, to my mind, an acceptable metric for distinguishing the sincerity of an identity. And I know people who are far, far, far more involved in gaming than I am. Here, I'll put it this way. I know people who are more committed to gaming than I am to being a man. Okay? So who the fuck am I to tell them that gamer gender isn't a thing? Okay? There are people who put way more effort into gaming than I ever have into my masculinity. So there isn't really an argument against this. It's the same thing. It's all the same thing. I think the only way out of this trap, and it is one, by the way, because the logical consequences of allowing stuff like this and treating it with the full weight of regular transphobia is not great. So I think the best thing that we can do is just treat xenogenders like they're not genders. Treat them like identities. It is shitty to be disrespectful towards a person's identity, as long as that identity is not harmful or bigoted or whatever. If a person has an identity and you're mean or awful to it, I think that's bad. It can be really bad sometimes. But I don't think it's the same as transphobia, because I don't know if all these terms should be a gender, because then anything can be a gender and then it doesn't mean anything. I still think children exploring their gender identity through xenogenders or whatever is fine, though. I'm not advocating for you guys to, like, come down hard on, like, the fucking baby zone on Tumblr. I'm only asking that you understand my trepidation with the uncritical acceptance of gender being a ubiquitously acceptable identity that anybody can self-ascribe. There are problems with that. There are serious ideological problems with that. Shut up, Shu. I agree, but isn't gender arbitrary in the first place? Yeah, which is why I want to get rid of it, not add more of them. I mean, is it important, though? Please stop asking that when I've addressed that question 47 times. And also, whether or not... Keep in mind, my argument is one of utility. Guys, is gender a social construct? Okay. Does social construct mean that it has no meaning? There we go. Gender is a social construct, but it does have meaning. Not inherent meaning, but constructed meaning. If we accept this idea that any identity is a gender, then gender does have no meaning. Or gender becomes the same meaning as identity, in which case any attack on a person's identity is an attack on their gender, which is transphobic. Not a world that I want to live in. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, 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 no. Anytime I attack any element of a person's identity, I'm a transphobe. So when I make fun of gamers, or people who watch Doctor Who, or people who like Supernatural, or people who use Tumblr, these are all genders that people can identify with and sincerely accuse me of transphobia for doing. If I call people meme lords or gamers or piss buckets, there are genders associated with every element of all human identities that I can't criticize because they should be accepted with the same sincerity as, like, a gender identity. This is a hell world, and I will not live on it, and I will not let you people drag me to it because you're afraid of making children angry on social media. I will not do it, okay? You all need to buckle up your goddamn pants, okay? Elevate the suspenders, and really take a second to think about what some of the arguments you people make lead to, okay? It's not good. Just treat it like identity. Are we okay? Can we move on? Please. Vaush, that was fear-mongering. Then just unsubscribe. If you are so dedicated to intellectual incuriosity that anything that I've said here sounds like conservative fear-mongering, then you should unsubscribe. Go find some easy hugbox dipshit YouTuber who will ride all of your cognitive biases out into the sunset, and don't bother me, and don't bother my chat, okay? Ban yourself. Ask White Nervosa for admin perms, and then ban yourself from chat. Oh, or somebody else can ban them, I suppose. All right, we're here. God